Good morning, everyone. We're glad that you're here. Hope that you had a good night, be able to rest, and we'll start again. And hopefully today won't be quite as long a day as we had yesterday. So we'll see. All right. First thing we want to do is take a minute to gather our thoughts and to reflect on why that we're here this morning. So join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. All right. The first item on our agenda, I think, is we need to go back to yesterday's consent agenda. We had two items that we tabled yesterday afternoon to come back today to give everyone a chance to read and be familiar with the two cases. The first one is item 7, case 21-073. Are there any discussion, or is there any discussion on it?
Madam Chair, before we go there, I just want to make sure, I know everyone that's here is signed in. I'm trying to see if Dr. Moore,
She said her flight was getting in at 9, and as soon as she could
Okay.
get where she could, she would sign in.
okay, and then Ms. McFetridge, is she on this morning? I don't see her. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Any discussion on item 7? And I realize that we don't get a lot of information on these cases, but my concern was this case was very similar to one that we had, I think, just last month. And that case brought a total revocation, and this one is a 1-year probation. And it may be that the information we get later would make us understand that, but based on just what we have, I'm a little concerned with that.
I agree, but there was something that made me feel better about it, and
Okay.
it was in the timeline. Trying to find it. Okay, it says on February 1st, 2021 afternoon that child maltreatment hotline was contacted and was informed that the alleged incident was not accepted for investigation.
Okay.
So it must not have been enough there, or whatever they saw didn't make them feel as if they needed to do an investigation. So that made me feel better about the difference, because
Yeah.
that was one thing that I looked at as well.
Okay. This was I don't know how much we can say, but the age is one thing I wondered about in that particular instance. So, I don't know. We just want to let it go and just let the board know that we were concerned about the difference in the levels there. Maybe I see Ms. Saraceni nodding, okay, and making sure that we're consistent there, that we were concerned about that. Any other comments? Okay. The other item was item 8, case 21-088. I know Dr. Moore is not on. I think she expressed some concerns about this one yesterday also. The concerns I think that we both had on this one was just the impact on students with the actions, but it was just a written reprimand on it. Any comments?
Is there anyone here with the PLSB that can comment on that?
I know Ms. Douglas is not in here this morning.
Good morning, Courtney Solis Ford for the department. Ms. Douglas couldn't be here, but I can attempt to answer any questions that you have. But the board,
Was referencing her comment about, I guess, the lightness of the punishment.
typically we don't have members of the subcommittee or the board attend these hearings or these consent items. If you wanted to pull it for hearing for next month's agenda, we might be able to provide you additional information, but any rationale that the committee used is included in the documentation that was provided to you.
I just, to me, and I have to be careful what I'm saying, I understand that, having that action happen in a classroom and then seeing a written reprimand, as a former teacher, I'm very concerned. Okay, and I'll let it stop there. But and again, I don't know any more details than what we have here. But I might be the only one that feels that way. But I just think that was my child. Okay. So do we just want to let it go, and then I want to know the pleasure of the board, what you would like to do.
I don't have an issue with getting more information if you, I have no issue with that at all.
Okay.
And if you want to do both of them, I think that would be good.
So I don't want to push up my opinion on
No.
anyone. Okay. So I'm asking what would the board like to do on those two cases?
And Courtney, the proper motion would be to remove it from consent, to place it on the action agenda for next month.
Correct. So we can send appropriate notice to the educator and let her be here to answer those questions.
All right. So I'm waiting for a motion on, because we haven't done anything with either item, I guess. So item 7 and 8 from last month, we can do the same thing or different things. It doesn't matter. Just what the pleasure of the board is.
I move to remove them from the consent agenda, items 7 and 8, and place them on the action agenda for next month.
Okay. We have a motion to put them on the action agenda for next month by Ms. Steen,
And I'll second that.
seconded by Dr. Rankin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Newton, Chairman, I think I appreciate what you're saying, because I think your perspective as a classroom teacher is so invaluable to us. I mean, I know, so don't be hesitant about that experience, because that's why you're here. And you know, there are certain things in community I may bring,
Right.
you know, that I said, well, you know, so, I mean, if that was my child and that situation happened, I definitely want to know more about it, or any child. So please don't be hesitant in doing that. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. That was a help. Thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair, I think her hesitancy is that she can no longer make motions
I know.
as in her new role.
Yes.
And so she was hoping that.
There might be
yes.
another use for this.
Yeah.
That's why I said what I said. I knew that. But I'm always listening, referring to her as the classroom expert.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Okay, so we will move on. Are there any changes to the agenda? Any new business? Okay, so Mr. Johnson, I think we're ready for the charter digital learning applications. Good morning.
Good morning. Tim Johnston, DESE Charter Unit. The eSTEM Charter School has submitted an amendment for digital learning program in grades K through 12 for all campuses. The school will offer asynchronous and synchronous instruction with virtual and blended options through the use of an approved digital provider and licensed district staff. The application has been reviewed by the DESE team. The charter authorizing panel approved the digital learning program on June 15th, 2021, and the STEM charter expires in 2023. So today, you're voting whether or not to review or not review the charter panel's decision. And John Bacon is on the Zoom if you have any questions.
Okay. Does anyone have a question for the department or Mr. Bacon? No? All right, so our appropriate motion would be either to review or not review this morning.
I move to not review.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Steen not to review. Second by Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next is Graduate Arkansas. They submitted an amendment for digital learning program in grades 9 through 12. The school will offer asynchronous instruction virtually through the use of an approved digital provider. Application has been reviewed by the DESE team. The charter authorizing panel approved the digital learning program on June 15th, 2021, with the exception of an enrollment increase, and their charter expires in 2026. So actually in their digital learning application, they had two components. They had the digital learning application or digital learning program, but then they had also included in that an enrollment increase. And so that part was pulled from that to go back before the charter authorizing panel.
This one would make their digital learning plan good for 5 years, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And Katie Hatley is available on Zoom if you have any questions.
Any questions for department or Ms. Hadley? Motion is to review or not review.
I'll move to not review.
Okay. A motion by Ms. Woods not to review.
Second.
Second by Dr. Rankin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. Next is the Lisa Academy. Lisa Academy has submitted an amendment for a digital learning program in grades K through 12 for all campuses. The school will offer asynchronous and synchronous instruction virtually through the use of an approved digital provider and licensed district staff. Application has been reviewed by the DESE team. Charter authorizing panel approved the digital learning program at the June 15th, 2021 meeting. The charter does not expire until June 30th, and so that was one thing that came up in conversation, and we knew that the board had not granted extended digital learning programs. So the charter authorizing panel voted to approve the plan for 3 years. And Luann Baroni is available via Zoom if you have any questions.
Okay. Any questions for the department or Ms. Baroni? All right. I need a motion to either review or not review.
Motion not to review.
A motion by Mr. Sutton not to review,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Steen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving right along.
Moving right along, thank you. The next one is the Friendship Aspire. Friendship Aspire Academy in Little Rock submitted an amendment for digital learning program for grades K through 8. The school will offer asynchronous and synchronous instruction virtually through the use of an approved digital provider and licensed district staff. Application has been reviewed by the DESE team, and the charter authorizing panel approved the digital learning program at the June 15th, 2021 meeting. Their charter expires June of 2023, and Virginia Henry is available on Zoom if you have any questions.
Okay. Does anyone have questions? I did have a couple of questions on this one.
Okay.
If Ms. Henry is available.
I know I saw her on Zoom.
I'm here.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. I had a couple of questions. I saw that some of your teachers are going to be doing dual roles. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Could you describe that a little bit for me, please?
Sure. If it's necessary for them to do both, we will give them extra time to actually plan and prepare. And we'll also make sure that they have extra time for office hours or conference time in case the students actually need some extra assistance. We don't anticipate, it all depends on the enrollment as far as if we'll have to do the actual dual duty or not.
Okay. All right, and can you just describe just a little bit in your early grades, K2, K3, what your program will look like, especially in the area of literacy?
Sure. We will be for the most part, during the actual synchronous learning, they will have the same literacy block of instruction that the on-site kids actually have. Special time and attention via paraprofessionals will be given to actually make sure that they have time to practice their literacy.
Okay, and so that instruction will be synchronous?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay, our motion is to either review or not review.
I move to not review.
Okay, motion by Ms. Dean not to review,
Second.
seconded by Dr. Hill. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Okay. The next one is for Friendship Aspire also, but this is for the Friendship Aspire Academy Southeast Pine Bluff campus. They've submitted an amendment for digital learning program for grades 10 through 12. School will offer asynchronous and synchronous instruction virtually through the use of approved digital provider and licensed district staff. Application has been reviewed by the DESE team, and the charter authorizing panel approved the digital learning program at the June 15th, 2021 meeting, and their charter expires in June of 2023. And Ms. Virginia Henry would be able to answer any questions about this one as well.
okay. Anyone have a question for the department or Ms. Henry? All right, the motion is to either review or not review.
I move to not review.
Moved by Ms. Dean not to review. Seconded by Ms. Woods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Next is the Excel Center, and the Excel Center has submitted an amendment request to add additional campuses. The school is the only adult learning center in the state and serves students age 19 and over. The charter was originally authorized in 2016 and has an enrollment cap of 350. The charter expires in June of 2022, and the charter panel approved the request unanimously at the June 15th meeting. Brian Marsh, Marcus Jewett, and Greg Wertenberger are all here in person if you have any questions.
Okay. All right. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. Come up here. You made the trek. You might as well come up here.
Good morning,
Good
Marcus Jewett, Vice President of Mission Services for Goodwill Industries of Arkansas.
I'm Greg Wertenberger, the School Director for the Excel Center.
Thank you both for coming this morning, and I just wanted to give y'all pats on the back. And that was all I wanted to do, is to thank you for what you're doing, because over the years I've seen kids that would drop out and say, well, I'm going to go get my GED, and it never happens. You know, they don't. And this is going to have 1,050 students that are going to have the opportunity to get that high school diploma, and it makes a difference in lives, in their lives for their whole lifetime, but it also makes a difference in their families, you know, and it just has such a huge impact on communities and the ones that you serve. And so I just want to express my appreciation for what y'all are doing. I don't know if others in the board have comments or questions.
I echo your sentiments, Chair, because just when they drop out, they're not out of sight, out of mind. They're dropping in somewhere, and they'll drop out. We'll drop in somewhere, and so I appreciate you all giving them, working to give them another alternative, another option, and just to to reboot, to recalibrate, to restart, jumpstart their education career. So thank you all for what you're doing.
Yes,
Question, Mr. Newton.
yes. Okay.
So I see your new locations proposed are Springdale, Jonesboro, and Fort Smith. Where are you now?
Yes, correct. We are in Little Rock in 7400 Sky Hamilton, our corporate headquarters. We have our one school location there. The two that we are looking at are the Jonesboro and the Springdale areas.
Northeast Arkansas, over in West Memphis, Marion area, Crittenden County could probably certainly use a campus.
Agreed. And I think that's, as we look at the hot pockets in the state of where we know our services are needed, there are 31 Excel centers across the country.
31.
We're the one in Arkansas, and we are the only one of the 31 that don't receive state funding. And so that is our challenge, is how do we know there are pockets of folks that need our help.
Right.
How do we do that efficiently, effectively with no funds? So.
I got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Would you like to, go ahead, go
Well, I
ahead.
was just going to say, where does your funding?
Our funding comes from the donated goods arm of Goodwill. So when people donate and shop at our stores, that funds all of our mission programming, including the Excel Center. So to date, there's about $8.5 million in investment from our Goodwill directly into the Excel Center.
Wow. So 100% funding is
There's
from
a
the-
couple will get donations in terms of here's a $1,000 check for technology or things like that, but the vast majority, 99%, is donated goods.
Wow, because I certainly see the need for this across the entire state. I think that would be a huge component for all of our geographical areas of the state. So thank you for what you're doing. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, for us to know?
I
Either
would
one
just
of
say
you?
thank you for allowing us to continue to do it. We know that it's impactful work, and our students have children that are school age, and so we know that it's a multi-generational impact that we're making, and we just hope to continue to do that and expand that footprint to serve more people that need it. So thank you all for the opportunity.
I'm curious about your student population. Are they typically coming in as 18-year-olds?
No, actually, most of the students who come to us have been out of school for a minute. They're not dropping immediately out of high school and coming directly to the Excel Center. Most of them are going out and dropping in somewhere else, as you mentioned, and then really experiencing challenges. So about 70% of our students are coming to us. They are single parents. So one of the primary reasons that a lot of our students have dropped out initially was because they became parents themselves. It was very, very challenging to complete high school while being a parent. So they've raised or started raising their children up to about school age. And it's when their kids start asking the question, why do I have to go when you didn't finish? Or when they can't help their children with homework, that really sinks in. And that's what they're telling us predominantly when they come in, is I want to be able to help my kid. I want to be able to give them, because I don't want them to struggle the way I've struggled for the last 5, 10, 15 years. So that's what's really compelling for us. So
A couple more questions.
Yeah.
Is it a traditional day? Because I'm assuming these are working adults.
Right, yeah, so it's very flexible. We have a class schedule that meets on site in our building from 9 to 4, Monday through Thursday. Students can come full-time, they can come part-time, because all of our core instruction happens by credentialed instructors in the building. We are looking at adding for our next term some greater flexibility with a couple of evening classes, as we are able to fund that with our instructors, just to add that greater flexibility. So one of a distinctive part of our model is our life coaches that are assigned to every student who comes in, who serves as kind of school counselor, school social worker. They really partner with services that we have right there at Goodwill, our career services, for example. They also partner with outside entities and employers to help connect students with flexible employment opportunities that allow them to do both, because they do have rent and utilities and childcare. We provide free on-site childcare for our students who are needing to come to class, who have preschool age kids who are not in school yet. So we're looking at extending that and making that available in the evenings as well, if it's based on the need of our students, of course. But yeah, when they come to us, 84% of them are or underemployed, but many of them are trying to juggle around at least a part-time job while they are coming into class.
And then, they're actually receiving instruction from a teacher, or is it more of like an online credit recovery type system?
No, all of our core content classes are taught by licensed or credentialed educators in the building. So we do use some online curriculum for some of our elective course offerings, but all of the math, science, history, all of the core academic subjects are taught by licensed educators.
We know that over 90% of our students come to us needing some level of remediation. And so being able to provide that in-person, high-touch service, we know works best for our students. So.
We hire 2 certified special education teachers. We have a bilingual teacher on staff to help with English language learning. In fact, he just finished the ESL Institute at Henderson State earlier this summer, so is looking at taking the praxis and adding that endorsement on his license as well.
What's the grade level that you see most of them coming back in at? Or is it really just across the board?
We use iReady diagnostic assessments in math and reading as part of the enrollment process, and predominantly when students come into us, they're testing at around a 3rd grade to 4th grade reading level, and pretty close to the same in terms of math readiness. So we have a math and an English lab course that is facilitated by our special education instructors, who, they're working on filling the gaps to get students up to a point where they can successfully access high school level work in an accelerated 8-week term, because we do want them to be successful when they are coming in and being able to earn credit. So.
Another question too. Do you see that students have to toggle in and out of your offerings? I mean, are you seeing a pattern where they come and they stay and they're able to complete it, or do you have a retention
So
issue?
that's definitely one of the benefits and the challenges to the kind of alternative year-round 8-week accelerated schedule that we offer, because yes, frequently there will be family issues, health issues, employment issues that arise. So a student may come in and attend for 8 weeks, then they may step back for 8 weeks. Now we do have the majority of our students do persist on, and that's a big part of where that life coaching comes in. Before they step out, that life coach really tries to exhaust, how can we create the space, even if it's just part-time, to continue, because it is harder. Once students step back, it's harder to get them back in. We have hired a full-time recruitment and retention specialist who, interestingly enough, is also one of our graduates of the Excel Center.
That's
so
great.
He has lived where they are, and he has that unique perspective with our students to be able, in addition to their life coach, to say, let's make sure we've considered all of the options that are available, even if we just pursue part-time, to continue to make progress toward. All things considered, when our people graduate with their diploma, most of the time they have been with us between 5 and 7 terms, or about 12 to 18 months is the average for students to complete. And that, of course, depends on whether they can attend full-time, whether they've persisted through consecutive terms, or whether they've stepped back. And of course, we have several students who we have not seen for the last year during COVID. They are very interested in coming back to us for this next school year. So we're very excited to receive them.
Sure. And just curious, the term of your life coaches, are you seeing consistency there, or is there turnover? Because I could see that relationship that a life coach as a mentor would build with the student could be a real secret to success.
So the school, up until this last year, relied on 2 life coaches who have been with the school since its inception for all 4 years. One of them is our lead life coach, Becky Lockett, incredible advocate for students, for their families, passionate about the work that Goodwill and Excel Center does. I think they're pretty well locked in where they're going to be. In fact, it's really interesting. Ms. Lockett was telling me that one of the students who is going to be returning to us is one who we haven't seen for several terms. And she's coming back. She has a lot of challenges. She is somebody who's re-entering after incarceration. And so she's asking about all of the instructors and the people who are still there. And most of them are still there. It's the, you know, some of the people that she was in school with have graduated and moved on. But of course, that's also inspiring, because that's another thing that has motivated some of our students when they've seen their friends, their classmates in those caps and gowns completed. That could have been me, should have been me. They're compelled to come back. So we were able to add an additional life coach over this last year. She just is practically in tears every day when she comes into work, because she's just so excited about what she does. So I don't look for any of them to be transitioning out anytime soon.
That was wonderful.
Yeah, that's great.
I had the opportunity to speak at one of your graduations a few years ago. It was fantastic. Not just single parents, but grandparents, you know, graduating with their grandkids in the audience. So highly recommend, if we can get you connected, to go see one of these events and be a part of it. Would definitely recommend it to any board members who would be interested in that. It's pretty awesome.
One of our June graduates had a fifth grade, or one of her fifth grade teachers who came to our last commencement ceremony. And it really was very special to acknowledge that we were sharing that day with the graduate, with their family, but then all of the educators prior to who helped. They were a part of that student's story to get them to that place. So it was a very, very compelling day, and something I would really encourage you to be a part of if you can.
Thank you very much. And just, this is probably, oh, you had a question?
Yeah, I just want to ask Secretary, understanding the value of this program, why is it that they're not receiving state funding when we pay for other issues?
I wondered when somebody would get around to that question. Yeah. So when it's complicated, but it's not complicated. Arkansas Constitution sets ages in which the public funds to support public education. They could receive some, but when the enabling legislation was brought forward, it had a component and a phrase in there that basically said that, and it was a commitment. It was a demonstration of a commitment by the team from Goodwill at the time to say, hey, we want to come set this up, and we're going to do it with donations, and we're going to show you the commitment. And I think the assumption was always they would come back later and ask for that legislation to be modified. So that just has not happened. So that legislation that restricts them from receiving state funds under the traditional, because they're not going to get the 7,000, whatever it is now per pupil ADM. Also, their model is different. I mean, they described that model being at 8 weeks. We just said, okay, so 8 weeks, we don't fund schools that way, so we don't count students that way. So it would have to be one, a change in legislation, and two, a different line item that we'd have to determine where general revenue could come from to support this, and how that would be distributed, either straight line item or some other mechanism.
So that doesn't even fall under like the career education. Like I have a GED program. I brought a GED program to Arkansas Baptist for that reason of is that separate money?
It is separate money, and so adult education money is the way that's structured. It puts those students on a track to a GED. They actually give a diploma. I mean, a high school diploma, just like a graduating 18-year-old gets. So there is a difference there too. Yeah.
That was my question, was why they didn't fall into the adult education.
And I really don't know, and that's probably a conversation for another time of what the thoughts are on the timing for changing that legislation. But I know that's something that we would be open to discussing at the department level to make whatever recommendations to governor and legislature, because they do have a very successful model.
Yes.
And if it's nothing else to pay for their success. Yeah. Back end, I mean, because kudos to what
Madam Chair, may I say something as well? I thank you for what you're doing. As a single mom, I know the challenges that single parents find themselves in. And to have an opportunity to do it, have a do-over is amazing. And as a single parent, you're basically doing it on your own. And you don't have that two-parent income. And there's so many studies that talk about what children endure when they have to live in a household when there is poverty. And so one of the factors for getting children out of poverty is educating the parent. And it jumps exponentially when you go from a parent who does not have a high school degree, or you got a high school diploma, to one that does, and then it jumps exponentially again to one that has some college. And then it goes again. So there's studies that talk about a married couple and the lack of poverty, and how you level it out is with education. When a single parent has better education, they're on the same level as a two-parent household. So, and it does wonders in the lives of the children. The children are the ones that benefit the most from that. So, thank you for what you're doing. And I think we need to work on making sure you get funding to continue what you're doing, so that you can spread this throughout the state in those areas that really need it. So thank you for the work that you're doing. It's amazing.
I think the consensus on this board is we will do whatever we need to help you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I guess we need to do, I'm not sure how this motion is going to go, if they're going to get a pass or not. We'll see. But the motion is to review or not review.
I would be honored to make this motion to not review.
Okay.
Second.
All right, motion by Dr. Rankin, second by Ms. Steen. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm going to vote aye on this one too. All right. Thank
you
y'all.
very much. The last one is for the Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy. Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy has submitted an amendment request to change the name of the charter. The charter was originally approved in 2012 and serves students in grades K through 12 with a current enrollment cap of 1,500. Their charter expires in 2028, and the charter authorizing panel approved this request unanimously, at the June 15th, 2021 meeting.
Okay. And I see Dr. Moore has been able to join us. Thank you, Dr. Moore. Welcome. All right. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay. We need a motion to review or not review.
I move to not review.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Steen not to review. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Dr. Hill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Our next one are the digital learning applications from our school districts. Good morning, Ms. Smith.
Miss y'all.
It's been so long.
The Excel Center, if y'all have not been there, you need to go visit it. It's doing great things. And it is different. It's not a GED, it's that diploma. And that means something. So doing great work. I was thinking City Surf people need to go visit and do a tour, don't you think? Okay.
Thank you.
We have, I believe it's 10 on the list today. The first one is Augusta, and it's in a consortium with Wilbur Mills, and it's the only one that's a part of that consortium. So are there any questions around Augusta? Okay.
No?
Would y'all like to go ahead and make a motion for Augusta for approval for 3 years?
Okay. Do we have a motion for Augusta?
I move to approve Augusta for the district waiver for 3 years.
Okay. Have a motion by Ms. Dean,
Second.
second by Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, the next group are singletons, and so I'm going to kind of go through the whole list here. We have Mountain Pine for 1 year request, Ozark Mountain for a 3-year request, Shirley for a 3-year request, March Tree for a 1 year, and Nettleton for 1 year.
I had,
And Melbourne, I'm sorry, and also, no, not Melbourne yet, sorry.
okay. All right, any questions on those? I had questions on Ozark Mountain, Mark Tree, and Nettleton. Dr. Moore, did you have any questions on any of those?
No, not at Andy's now.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
So let's go ahead and, if you're ready, to
Mhm.
do a approve motion on Mountain Pine and Shirley for the number of years requested on their application, because they're different. One's for 3 and one's for 1. So Mountain Pine and Shirley.
Okay. Need a motion for Mountain Pine and Shirley.
Motion to approve Mountain Pine and Shirley for the number of years they've requested.
I'll second.
Okay. A motion by Mr. Sutton, second by Ms. Woods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Okay, the next one is part of the Tri-Region Consortium, and that's Melbourne. Are there any questions on that one?
No? Okay.
Okay, for a motion then on Melbourne for 3 years.
I move to approve Melbourne for 3 years.
Motion by Ms. Dean. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
The next is Arkansas River Consortium. You've got Watson Chapel, Pine Bluff, and South Van Buren.
Questions on any of those three?
I did want to ask some questions for Pine Bluff.
Pine Bluff? Any others? Okay.
Okay, so we'll ask for an approval for Watson Chapel and Southside Van Buren.
I'll move to approve for Watson Chapel and Southside Van Buren.
Okay. A motion by Ms. Woods,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Dean. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Okay, so let me make sure that that's gotten me through all this here.
I think that was it.
It does. So the districts of Ozark Mountain, Mark Tree, Nettleton, and Pine Bluff should remain on the Zoom. And I think we'll loop back to Ozark Mountain. Do we have a representative from Ozark Mountain on the Zoom with us this morning?
Yes, I am Nicole Cunningham.
Okay, Board.
Good morning, Ms. Cunningham. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I think it was my question here. I got a little bit confused between your digital learning plan and then your addendum. In the digital learning plan, it said K-6 was going to be Guy Fenner and Virtual Arkansas was going to do 712. But then in your addendum, it said K-8 was going to be totally district staff, and then 912 was either going to be district staff and Virtual Arkansas. So I didn't know which way it was actually going to be.
That's a good question. I'm sorry for that mistake. Our plan is to go 912 with Virtual Arkansas if needed, and district staff where available. So district staff would not be responsible for both face-to-face and virtual students at the same time. But if we have a teacher with additional prep hours that could teach a course, then they could do that during an additional prep time, but they would never be expected to have both during the same time. If we do not have a teacher on staff to teach a course, then we would use Virtual Arkansas for that course.
Okay, what about your K-8?
For K-8, we will have dedicated teachers to teach those students. We will use Lincoln Learning and the Buzz Learning Management System, and we will have teachers who are dedicated to those students.
So
Only digital.
So you will not be using Guy Finner?
No, I'm not sure where that came from.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you, that was my question.
All right.
Any other questions? All right. Do you want to go ahead and
Yeah, so you could go, if you wanted to go ahead and do a motion for Ozark Mountain for 3 years.
Okay. Do we have a motion for Ozark Mountain for 3 years?
I move to approve Ozark Mountain for 3 years.
Okay. Okay, motion by Ms. Dean, seconded by Dr. Rankin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
So that moves us to Marked Tree. Do we have a representative from Marked Tree on the Zoom?
Yes, ma'am, you do. It's Matt Wright, Superintendent of Mark Tree.
Good morning, Mr. Wright. Thank you for
Good morning.
Being here. I saw that your teachers are going to be teaching simultaneously. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
How did your teachers feel about that?
Our teachers were in favor of that. We did not have a lot of success using Lincoln Learning last year. They wanted to have all their kids in class if they possibly could, and this was actually their idea and their plan.
Okay, all right. And community support?
Community support. And there was no issues when we visited with our community. A lot of our parents wanted their kids to have that face-to-face interaction, even if it was through a virtual setting.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mr. Wright?
How many students do you all expect to have?
K through 6, we anticipate 1 student. There's a significant medical issue that we think will prevent that student from attending. In our high school, to be honest with you, I believe it'll be fewer than 10.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? And Dr. Moore, if I forget to ask, just jump in when you need to.
I already did.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Okay.
A motion for Marked Tree for 1 year.
Okay, need a motion for Mark Tree for 1 year.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Dr. Rankin. Second by Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Okay, that moves
Thank
us,
you.
you're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
That moves us to Nettleton. Do we have a representative from Nettleton on the Zoom?
Yes, ma'am. Lacey Baker, the Assistant Superintendent for Nettleton. And then we also have Keith Thomas, who is the Director of the Virtual Academy, and Courtney Spear, who is the Instructional Facilitator for the Virtual Academy.
Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Yes, ma'am.
My question was, and I could not, I didn't know for sure from your plan, are your teachers going to be a dual role, or are they going to be virtual only? How is that going to work?
They're virtual only. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, and I saw that they would be given double prep time if they are doing virtual, and I really appreciated that, to realize that teachers did need extra time to prepare to do a good job.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so they will be virtual only. Okay, that was my
Yes.
question. Any other questions? Okay. All right, if there's no more discussion, we need a motion for Nettleton.
Motion to approve Nettleton.
Okay, motion to approve Nettleton,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Dean. All in favor? Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you so much. We look forward to it.
All right, thank you for being here.
And I would have been disappointed if we didn't pull Pine Bluff. One of the things we noticed this morning is their addendum got left off the agenda, so I'm going to pass that to you.
Okay. Can you email it to Dr. Moore?
Can you email that to Dr. Moore, please? Highlighting the addendum real quick. They're in a consortium with Arkansas River. And so this is very similar to the addendums that you've seen for other consortiums with Arkansas River, kind of addressing the same it's almost identical in some
Yeah.
cases to those aspects of it. It was for 3 years. Another note I want to make on Pine Bluff, and then I do know that we have Kathy Swan on, and we also, I believe, have Dee Davis on. Ms. Warren was not available this morning due to a family emergency. But one thing I wanted to note that you could not see here was the co-op worked very closely with Pine Bluff. They did not meet the deadline originally to submit their application. And so as we were watching, listening, going through the board meetings, Kathy and Pine Bluff and Ms. Warren got together and kind of talked about what does it look like for Pine Bluff, because they struggled this last year, one, getting students back on campus. By the end of the year in their elementaries, we saw 75% to 80% of their students back on campus, which was huge. High school still had very low numbers of participation, very low. So one of the things that we talked about with Pine Bluff is capping the number of students that could have virtual, and this was put in their board packet that went to Commissioner Key. So we started with a 5% cap for the district on the number of students that could actually be placed, with established criteria for them being successful within the program to be allowed in. And then just conversation around that. If we were to expand it beyond 5%, that would go back to, in a board packet to Commissioner Key to look at the factors and stuff around that. So Dee Davis and Kathy Swan are on here. Yes.
How would you arrive at 5%?
That was something that Ms. Warren herself felt like was a reasonable number. That's about 140 students in the district. And looking at the criteria of who those students would be, we have been having conversations this week in regards to the community and how they view COVID themselves, the numbers. 5% may be too low, but at the same time, we especially with the secondary, we've got to have, we feel like there's more kids that we need to have on site, but how do we balance that? And then Dee Davis and Kathy Swan are on for specific questions.
Okay. All right. We'll start with Dr. Moore.
Yes, thank you all for presenting today, and thank you. I just started to look through the addendum. In using both the consortium and Virtual Arkansas, what type of touch points will your district staff have? I didn't quite understand in the application. How will, they will be virtually checking on students, but we will be able to visually check on students at any point in time during the year and provide other mental health or other services for students.
I think we're not sure. Good morning. Dee Davis, Director, Curriculum and Instruction, Pine Bluff School District. It's been a minute since I've seen y'all, so happy 4th and all that. Good to be back. We will have provide all students with the same services. So if students receive special services such as dyslexia, such as speech, things like that, we will provide those services. We will make specific arrangements with each family and how that works for them, and we will accommodate all the different services curricularly and extracurricularly, as well as any special needs that all children, whether they are virtual or face-to-face.
And just to add to what Ms. Davis said, hi, my name's Kathy Swan. Good to see you all again. The district has identified a full-time connection coach that's part of our consortium model and that Virtual Arkansas requires as well. So there'll be a full-time dedicated principal there that is only connecting with those K-12 virtual students and families and connecting with our virtual principal, who we actually have on the line with us today. We got her hired. So I wanted her to join in case you wanted to actually see a K-6 virtual principal. So she's on the line in case you have any specific questions about curriculum that we're going to be using. But that connection coach is key, it's crucial, and it's something that we've required as a co-op, and most of the co-op consortiums have, and Virtual Arkansas requires. So they have that full-time dedicated person that will make those connections.
Okay, well, does that connection coach serve as a sort of an advisor or a mentor to student? Checking in if they are not logging into their courses, if they are dropping below in their grades, does that coach have that access to that information to work between?
Yes, Dee and I are both nodding, wondering who's going to speak. We've worked in partnership with this, so yes, they will have access to the progress monitoring They'll have constant communication with Ms. Manning, who's our principal, and those instructors. We're really just an extension of that district, and so it's almost as if we are their employees too. So it will be a very, very close relationship and connection to mentoring every student, partnership.
That's great. Particularly for some students that, by the end of next year, that will be almost 2.5 years that they might have been virtual. And sort of along those lines, especially at the lower elementary grades, I know that you included your plan for reading, but if you could speak a little bit more to what that looks like, especially in those early grades.
I'm going to introduce you to Tammy Manning. She's the K-6 virtual principal. I want to tell you a little bit about her first. She has taught kids across the nation reading in elementary, and she is also a certified principal, and she's been a member of Team Digital for the past 3 years, I think. So she brings a wealth of experience. So she's really worked hard on this plan and the literacy component. So Tammy, I'm going to let you answer those questions.
Good morning, everyone. I'm watching very closely with the literacy, and I've been working very closely with our literacy specialists, and I've actually started collaborating with other consortiums like Dawson, and we're working together. I'm looking at those components for the 5 components and making sure that they're all are addressed for every student, and that will be delivered synchronously daily for the K2 and the 3-6. We're looking at using a supplement program with Edgenuity's content, aligning that with the RISE initiative, the Science of Reading. We're looking at Benchmark Workshop, which hits all 4 of the components except for the phonological awareness, and we will bring in Hegarty for that piece. And it's initially only for K2, Hegarty is for that phonological awareness, but we also will extend that to 3rd grade for those babies that will need that intervention, that remediation piece maybe that they did not receive because we know what happened with the pandemic. So we will look at that. The comprehension will be addressed in that. Some days it will be asynchronously, some days it will be synchronously, but every day the students will have interaction with teachers, small group instruction delivered by me, delivered by a para that is going through the Science of Reading now, learning how to do that, and the certified teachers that have been hired that are trained to do that. So every day they will have a lesson, whole group lesson. They will have small groups depending on where they fall, what group, and some days it may be one-to-one interventions. So every day they will get those pieces that meet those 5 components of that literacy that I know that is so very important, that foundational piece that they need, especially for those K2 babies. And then moving on to the 3-6 that they also need to be able to be successful. So that is some of the things that we are doing now. And I said again, collaborating together with other cooperatives that are working in other areas that are delivering virtual too, so that we can just have those conversations and make sure across the board that we're meeting the needs of our students.
Thank you for sharing that. That's exciting to hear that level of engagement with students. It's certainly challenging in those early grades of reading, so thank you. I think those are all my questions I have written down right now. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Rankin?
Just had a follow-up question on the district connection coach. I see where they are receiving training. Where are they receiving that training? Where is that coming from?
That training will be in collaboration with Virtual Arkansas. The training will be what does the connection coach need to do for K-6 students in that model, and what does the connection coach need to do for 7-12 students in that model. So the 2 providers will get together and have a training with the connection coaches across the state so that everything is consistent and everybody knows what the expectations are and that they are successful as connection coaches.
Thank you for that. I do think that's going to be key in this situation especially. So thank you for your efforts there.
Okay. Ms. Dean? Dr. Hill? Mr. Sutton? Ms. Woods? Ms. Post? Okay. My question that I had on Pine Bluff, you hit on it in the very beginning, was engagement, especially at the secondary level, getting those kids back into the classroom and then getting them engaged. So the criteria for being able to have a secondary student in virtual.
So some of it will be based on their success last year.
Okay.
Credits earned, being on time with credits. So a heavy emphasis on the performance during last year's
Okay.
year.
All right, yeah, and because, and then, and this really doesn't have to do with virtual, I don't think, but some of these students, to get them back in the classroom this year, you may have to go hunt them. What efforts are y'all doing along those lines?
So each school campus this next year is going to have a social worker.
Okay.
That's something that they're going to leverage their ESSER funds for and their other title funds that they receive in their district because they felt like that was an important wraparound service. And part of that is going to their homes, getting them, talking to them. Yesterday, Dr. Moore talked to me specifically about the concern for digital learning for students in poverty and the additional supports that are needed. While we struggle with that, even in-person learning.
Yeah.
Especially teach schools that have an array of students, sometimes those kids just kind of disappear. And in schools where it's your entire class, what does that look like when you're put in a virtual learning with kids from all over the state? Are you disappearing there? For me yesterday when Dr. Moore and I were talking about this, I think that's what, when I look up at the screen and I see Kathy Swan, she was the one in Arkansas who got the grant from the department first to start Virtual Arkansas and kind of led a lot of our initiatives around that. And she is based in Jefferson County, Pine Bluff, that's her home. And as we were talking about the application for Pine Bluff and serving students, that conversation we're continuing to have that. What does that look like? Training, when we talk about the training being received from Virtual Arkansas, the idea of moving forward with not just training, how do you deliver digital content, but how do you scaffold in a digital world for students from poverty who may be struggling. It's not that they're not smart enough, it's not that they don't have access, and it's not that they necessarily have to come back to school. We got to figure out what it is you got to do to make them successful. And so I think while we've got Kathy on here and we've got Tammy on here, I think that's kind of their charge as they're moving into this next year is how do we address that? And for Pine Bluff and for several of our districts in our state, that's real.
All right.
So the social workers, I think, is one piece of that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for those efforts. Are there any other questions or any more discussion? All right. Then I think we're ready for a motion for Pine Bluff.
I move to approve the waiver for Pine Bluff
Okay.
for the amount of years they designated.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Dean. Seconded by Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
We went expedited again.
Because they updated me this morning. Let me go back to my notes here. Currently for next Wednesday's board meeting, pull over here, there are currently 8 applications already loaded within the system for next Wednesday. That leaves 20 left that we're in the process of still reviewing. 5 of those are charter. So they'll go to the charter panel and then come to you for review. So that leaves 15. Today, the team is actually calling the co-ops where these 15 districts reside to say, hey, you've got a school in your district who have submitted an application and it's not ready. Reach out to that district and help them get their application ready or talk about possibly pulling it. So here's where I'm asking for grace or permission or your direction. So the board meeting is scheduled for next Wednesday. Is this board comfortable with us continuing to add applications up until Tuesday morning?
That would be
For
the
that
very
Wednesday.
latest.
Yeah, I would think that would be the and we could say Monday afternoon.
I would be more comfortable with Monday afternoon. That would give me Monday night to start if we have, because it takes quite a while to go through them.
Okay, so Monday afternoon, we would stop loading applications. Good, okay, that works.
All right. We're ready to move on. See where we're at. so we're on a 1240 waiver request for Augusta School District. Am I in the right place?
That is correct.
All right.
Yes, yes. Ms. Newton, Lori Freno, Arkansas Department of Education. The Augusta School District requests that the State Board approve an Act 1240 waiver related to the term of a contract for its vocational agricultural teacher. The law requires that school districts have a year-round ag teacher, their contract be year-round. Augusta is requesting that this be reduced to 190 days for the reasons set forth in the application. And this is a 1 year only. This is a waiver for 1 year only. And Kathy Tanner from the Augusta School District is here to discuss this waiver and answer any questions. She is on the Zoom.
Good morning, Ms. Tanner.
Good morning. How are all of you?
We're doing good.
Yes, I'm Kathy Tanner. I'm the superintendent at Augusta. I had my team ready to be with me today, my principals and all, except for they're so busy in interviews right now trying to, fill our staff for this coming up school year. I don't know if you're familiar with Augusta. Augusta is a very small rural little town in the Delta. We have about 330 students, K-12. We are experiencing a decline as far as in high school for the next 3 years. And this came about, it wasn't because of COVID, this was just the cycle that we're seeing, but there are good things ahead because K-9, we're looking anywhere between 25 to 32 students per class. So we see that the enrollment is picking up. But the reason that I wanted this waiver was because of, similar to what happened last year, my ag teacher, ag teacher was a 240-day contract. And he had a maximum of about 14 students in ag. And when I realized this, then I decided that, well, I'm going to move him into SPED as a co-teacher because he had a SPED degree, which would help the kids, especially with the loss of learning. And see, being a small school like we are, the teachers everybody has multiple hats. The teachers have multiple preps. And what cuts down on the electives so much is because, there's only one science teacher, one math teacher, one English teacher, and they're teaching all those. And so it's the schedule, no matter how hard you try, is always interfering with something, but it interferes more when your number of students are so low. And so what happened is that when I realized this and I realized that I have all these teachers teaching multiple things, I realized they have dual jobs, I thought, well, it's not economically feasible for us to have a 240-day contract for a teacher that's not really 240 because he's only a part-time ag teacher. And I contacted the Career and Technical Ed and I said, this is where we are. And I want to keep my ag program because, first of all, we're a school of innovation. We base it around career readiness. My students are in the third, fourth generation of generational poverty. We are one of the top schools as far as how we rank in poverty. And I know we all know that the way to beat this cycle is to educate, but you got to educate with careers because they've got to see this as being an area to be successful. Augusta is one of the founding members for FFA, and Augusta is a rural community with agriculture being, one of the main occupations around here. And we wanted to keep our program because we have some students that are very interested in agriculture, and we do not need agriculture to meet the demands for the standards. We want to do it because it's another avenue for the kids that we have that would help them to be successful. And so I asked for the waiver because the ag teacher that I had last year has left and resigned and went to another school district, and we're in the process of looking for another person. We have the 1240 waiver in place that allows my teachers to teach out of content area as long as they're highly qualified. And also, we've had very good success with the non-traditional, especially in the areas of careers. And the State Department, or the Career and Technical Ed Department, when I talked with them, they told me that they would give me a conditional approval if the first year that I would offer just the beginning class of survey. And then the second year, do the first year, and then the second year, a second elective, and then the third year, add all three. And hopefully within 4 years or so, when my numbers get more, the numbers increase, then we would be able to add back to where we were with the two programs of study. And that is the reason why I'm bringing this before you. there's, with as rural as we are, you know, and I guess I kind of understand the 240-day contract in a way, and in a way I do not, because I was a former career and technical ed teacher as well. But we're so rural that one of our schools, which is Cotton Plant, that has been consolidated with Augusta, is 35 miles one way. So transporting the students all summer long, you know, for programs and stuff, I would do that in a heartbeat if it were feasible to do it and if the interest was there. So I'm wanting to start this next year on a clean slate, try to start over with agriculture, but also have a teacher that'll come in and help the district in other areas as far as teach other subjects that may be needed. And so that's why I'm before you today asking for this waiver.
Okay, thank you. Let's see if we have any questions from the board. Dr. Hill? Ms. Dean? Dr. Rankin? Dr. Moore? Mr. Sutton? Ms. Woods? Ms. Post?
I don't know that much about this. I'm just curious with the 240-day contract. What is it that the students are doing all summer long that a teacher has to have a contract of that length?
Well, we have Ross White who can come and answer that question for us, our director of CTE.
Morning, Ross White, Director of Career and Technical Education. I can't give you all the back history of it, but I mean, it is a part of state requirements, state law, that all agriculture education teachers are contracted on a 240-day contract. What I can give you as from the CT perspective with agriculture education is a lot of those programs obviously are built off of like animal science programs, and there's lots of others, but that program of study obviously involves large nature of animals don't stop in the summer. And so there's teachers and their support through FFA, but then that extends to, even though 4-H doesn't fall into our ag, it's still kind of a piece of those programs and a lot of work with that. And then their programming, just because of the extensiveness of it and their programs, a lot of their equipment and supplies and things that just requires year-round work. And so that's been a big push, I think, in the state for many, many years, was that their work extends to a 240-day type of work environment. Does that answer that question? Where a lot of schools also still have what they consider vocational teachers still on some forms of extended contracts. We have lots of teachers that are on 210-day contracts, 205 versus a normal 190-day contract. But the biggest piece usually goes back to most of them are working with their students with livestock throughout the summer, because that's a part of what is considered their SAE projects, which is part of their career development through the National FFA organization. That makes sense.
Ms. Tanner, I'm not sure if you heard all that or not, but his explanation was the large livestock, working with them all through the summer. Do you have anything that you want to add to that?
We do not have livestock. We have mosquitoes. That's about it. No, we do not. And it would be great someday to have that, the community gardens and things, but right now we do not have that.
Okay, all right.
And I'm not against it at all. I would think it'd be excellent to have that.
Okay, all right. What was your primary year-round before your declining numbers?
What was my numbers before?
No, what was your primary use for the year-round before your numbers declined?
Mowing, cleaning floors, those things, simply because we did not have a program now, a program for kids to be here.
Okay, all right. Is that it? Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? All right, I think we're ready for a motion then.
I move to approve the 1240 waiver for Augusta.
Okay, motion by Ms. Steen. Seconded by Dr. Rankin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Ms. Tanner.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. All right. PLSB members, Ms. Saraceni.
Carly Saraceni, Assistant Commissioner. Today I'm coming to you to provide the nominations for PLSB for 2 terms. One is a teacher that has been on PLSB for several years, and she has been reappointed by AEA. She's a classroom teacher from Helena, West Helena, and then we also have a new one coming on that's never served. That's a high school teacher from Fort Smith, and we're really excited because we have an elementary and a high school. So I'm coming to you today that this is our recommendation for these 2 positions on the PLSB board.
How many members are on that board?
You asked me and I went blank. We have representation from, we have 4 teachers, we have administrators, we have higher ed, so probably about 12, I think, but I can send it to you exactly. I'm trying to go around the
room and count
table when we're at a board meeting to see, but it's been so long since we've had one in person.
Right.
About 12 to 15, somewhere in there, because then we have a couple that sit on it that do not vote, like myself, Tanya Williams from DHS Early Childhood, so we have a few members like that.
And the ethics subcommittee, is it made up of same members?
And it's the same, the subcommittee is a representation, just a smaller number on that. Yes, sir. And then we have our evidentiary hearing committee that is made up of that as well.
And everyone serves a 3-year term?
Yes, sir. 17. I figure I was going around the room and I was thinking.
You were close.
Question, so they serve a 3-year term, but then can be reappointed just once or multiple times?
Right now in the law and in our rules, multiple times. So we have one that's been on since the inception of 2008-9 school year. Yes, ma'am.
Any others? All right. We are ready for a motion.
Move to approve the 2 nominees of Brenda Brown and Wendy Peer.
And just one question real quick, Ms. Saraceni. I saw Dr. Mary Jane Bradley's name in the description. She's not up for,
Yes, she is. She'll come. She's been reappointed. I think that was last month.
okay, so it was just a mistake that her name was in that list. Okay, all right. Okay, so we have a motion by Dr. Rankin to approve Ms. Brown and Ms. Peer. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Sutton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, I think you're up next for the next one also.
Yes, and we're going to go on with our assessments. Today I'm coming to you with several assessments. We have 8. Most are just up for their this is the new testing year. Anywhere from 5 to 6 years, they update the test. Sometimes it's even up to 10. As the national standards change, then the test changes. But the online teaching K-12 assessment is we had no test at all, and we collaborated with Team Digital to come up with an evidence-based, performance-based assessment. And that's what they're using with our online. They're going to use second semester with our online academies.
Okay.
Any questions about any of them?
Any questions over here? Dr. Moore?
Yes, I did have a question on the online teaching assessment.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that will be required if you teach online courses, or it's just an endorsement that you can choose to get?
It's an endorsement that you can choose to get for if you already have a teaching license at this time.
Do we expect maybe in the future or currently districts to say you need to go through this before they teach? Or I guess we're kind of building the plan as we're going.
Yes, and we started that with those online academies. Currently, UCA had a program before this, and they were our kind of our guinea pigs. They were our pilot, and they took this exam in the spring, and we had 5 graduate with the online teaching endorsement. But we feel that this will grow, especially with the pandemic and all the virtual learning. We're assuming that this is going to be an area which grows. And we did not have a licensure assessment for this, and we felt that it needed to be. And so we were ahead of the game because this started happening about 2 years ago. So we saw that it was going that way. And so we feel very comfortable with this assessment. And of course, it's a pass-fail and not a cut score.
Thank you for sharing.
Any questions over here? No? Okay. Do we need to approve them as a group? Can we do that? Okay. For the licensure assessment approvals.
I move to approve the licensure assessment.
Okay. Moved by Ms. Steen. Seconded by Dr. Hill. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Madam Chair, I did leave out Dr. Bradley. Can we go back and
Yes,
approve her?
okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right, so we're going back to the nominations for the members of the Professional Licensure Standards Board. Dr. Mary Jane Bradley is also
Yes,
on the
and
list.
she is just being reappointed.
Okay.
This is her second term will be her second term of 3 years.
Okay.
I just need that recommendation and someone to
Okay.
make a motion.
Can we have a motion for Dr. Bradley?
I'll move to approve Dr. Bradley.
Okay, motion by Ms. Woods,
Second.
second by Ms. Steen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right. All right, so we are now to embedded course approvals. Dr. Pride, good morning. And it's still morning.
It is,
It's still morning? I don't know. I feel like it's afternoon. It's morning. Great. All right. So good morning, Tiffany Pride, Assistant Commissioner of Learning Services. I'm here to present embedded courses and ask for your approval. Act 421 of 2013 allows curriculum frameworks from 2 separate courses to be taught in a single course, known as a combined or embedded course. 9 school districts made application for approval of combined or embedded courses and assured in writing that the curriculum frameworks for both courses will be fully taught in a combined or embedded course. DESE respectfully requests the State Board of Education to approve the embedded courses, understanding that when the curriculum frameworks for one of the courses are revised, a new course approval must be submitted to the State Board of Education and approved, and must be granted before a school will be allowed to offer the embedded course.
Okay. Embedded courses, Dr. Hill, Ms. Steen, Dr. Rankin, Dr. Moore?
Yes, I was curious, do we have, I like to see embedded courses with CTE courses. Would those be here if there were any, or does that go through a different type of approval?
Yes, that would be here. They submit through our course approval system as well. And there are a few on here. When you look at the Jessieville one, Keystone, that's a CTE course. That is a 1-semester course and typically offered in 9th through 10th grade. There's a career readiness course. Let's see which one did the career readiness. So it was Hope. They did advisory in 8th grade career development. So that would be CTE as well. And I'm trying to see if there was one more. I know that there was a career readiness and a college and career readiness. So there are a few.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Mr. Sutton? Question? Ms. Woods? Ms. Post? Okay. All right, we ready for a motion?
I move to approve the embedded courses for 2021-22
Okay.
year.
We have a motion by Ms. Steen, second
Second.
by Dr. Rankin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we are to our last item, licensure exceptions. Ms. Saraceni.
Just want to go briefly over, we will not take a lot of time.
Okay.
But I know that this being the pandemic year, we've really talked about all the exceptions and the licensure exceptions. So if we just talk about our alternate licensure plans, and is this going to work, Dan? Okay, yeah, it does, good. We'll go, and here's all of our exceptions. The additional licensure plans are for teachers that already have a license. Our long-term subs are over 30 days. I know some of us had a question about that a few times ago. A long-term sub, if it's over 30 days, must hold a bachelor's degree, and versus a sub that's not 30 days, we don't see them. Okay, and a long-term sub can stay for a semester. But after a semester, they have to reapply for the long-term sub. Okay, the emergency teaching permit is just that, the emergency teaching permit. You would be AQT and have some experience, but maybe you just haven't passed that test, but you are highly qualified in that area. Act 1240 waivers are those waivers that you do not have a teaching license. And then our effective teacher licensure exceptions, I find this, and I know Melissa does too, Ms. Lisa Jacks, our coordinator for manager for licensure. This is, you can teach one area above or one area below. So if you have that middle school math and you're a really good 8th grade math teacher, you could go up and teach that 9th grade algebra, because that exam is that rigorous. Again, you can see by comparison, special ed by far is the most common of our additional licensure plans, ALPs. You know, it's just always steady. And I was surprised that it wasn't a larger gap between 1920 and 2021 of people on ALPs. It's only slightly increased. Here is by percents, and this is what we do because we want you to see that the smaller districts may have quite a few teachers on ALPs, but again, they already have a license, and we just showed you our top. Again, our long-term subs, when you look over the years, it wasn't that big of an increase for this year. So, but when you look at those numbers, that's for a semester at a time. So that's really double of what it should be. And I just want to explain that because we give long-term subs out for a semester at a time. Okay, so 771, you know, that's not 771 the whole year. Because I don't want you to see numbers and think, and they're skewed. So that's why I'm trying to explain just enough. But effective teaching license, this we get, of course, out of my school info. And if someone has input something incorrectly, we try to see and we try to go back and fix it if we can at all possible. Yes. And then again, here's our approvals for our emergency teaching permit. It has gone up. Last year it was just $390. This year it's $413. So that kind of lets you look at a snapshot of where we are on our licensure exceptions. And again, ETPs by districts. We want you to see how many they're asking, because like that charter school one, there's only 4 in the whole school, so their percent's higher. We just want to make sure that you're looking at apples to apples. And again, the Act 1240 waivers, this is a steady increase, but again, not a huge increase with the pandemic. And so this is broken down so that you can see. And again, the long-term sub, that number is by semester. Yes, a long-term sub is a sub that is in a classroom for more than 30 days. If it is more than 30 days, on that 30-day, you have to have, you fill out something with us, our office, and then we approve it or deny it. And it comes to you every month. Any questions?
All right. Dr. Hill? Ms. Dean? Dr. Rankin?
I just want to say thank you for that slide with the breakout of secondary and elementary. That's really interesting and helpful.
Yes, it is. So thank you.
Hang on, Ms. Saraceni, let's make sure nobody else
Oh,
has a
okay.
question. Dr. Moore, did you have any questions? Okay. I did have a question, and it actually goes back to yesterday's consent, but I didn't ask. I thought this would be a better place. How quick do schools give up on finding a person for a position? Because I noticed we had like 3 or 4 long-term subs that were already on the list for this next school year, and I know it was special ed, but it seemed like they would have had to have gotten their application in June, and they've already given up and decided, well, we're just going to put a long-term sub in that special ed classroom. They just seem like awful quick to say, I'm not even going to try.
Well, here is one thing that we have learned, and Melissa may want to come up and talk about it as well. With special ed, you can't have an exception. You can't be a 1240.
Right.
You can't be an emergency teaching permit.
Right.
So if I haven't passed that special ed test and I have just graduated, and you must pass the special ed test and the foundations of reading.
Right.
And maybe they're in the process of doing so.
Oh, okay.
So
That makes
they
sense.
want to hire you because
Okay.
you're lacking just one thing, but you have that degree.
Okay.
And so that's where there was such a large number on that special ed long-term sub. Because it really is someone that's completed the degree, they just have not completed the requirements for licensure.
That makes sense.
Does that kind
Yes,
of explain that better?
Yes, that got it. And so yesterday we talked about barriers on different ones passing the praxis in math or whatever. Are we seeing that same barrier as far as teachers being able to pass the special ed portion of the praxis?
Not so much, but the science of reading, the foundations of reading, which we're already.
So you're working on that? Okay.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am. But does that kind of give you
Yes.
a better, because you don't want to lose that person.
Right.
They may have interned in your building.
Yes.
And so that's why you see the ones in the summer, because you want to give them a job.
That makes sense. Yes, perfect
And
sense.
anything else you want to add, Victor?
It might also be someone that they have found that may have been a special ed parapro in their school, and they're putting them through an MAT program for special ed, and they know that, I don't want to lose them. I've got them in a program, but you have to have 6 hours of coursework in special ed
Right.
and the exams passed before you can actually get that license. And so they're just getting their paperwork done
Okay.
ahead of time. And also a possibility might be, and this is more a regular, what the true definition of long-term sub would be somebody that they know is going to be out on maternity leave or a long-term illness. And I've had a couple of calls just this week, as a matter of fact. Can I go ahead and put it in? I know they're going to be gone. And I said, yes, go ahead.
Okay, all right, thank you. Dr. Pfeffer?
And I want to commend this team because they really are doing a lot of work around really being proactive and looking long term and setting up some really good systems. You know, I was thinking about the past few months. There are so many things that they're putting in place that we've probably not gotten to share with you all because of trying to go through other things that need to get taken care of. So maybe in the next couple of months there'll be some opportunities for more of that to get shared, but just some things for you to know that are going on. You know, I think first of all, we just need to start adopting the mindset that, and Stacy's the one who actually verbalized this not long ago, if a school district doesn't have a grow your own program, we need to say why not. And I think those are things that we need to really start emphasizing, and you all can help us with that. Because if you don't have a grow your own program, then it's really hard for me to understand later on why we want to keep asking for waivers when we're not doing what we need to on the front end. And to that end, y'all are going to be really excited when they get to share what has been set up for possibilities for students who can participate in a teacher career pathway while they're in high school. They can start earning concurrent credit. If they're interested in that profession, they can go on to a 2-year college where there's scholarship money to pay for them in the 2-year college. It is remind me which scholarship? The Arkansas Futures Grant will pay for that. There are several 4-year institutions then who will take that student as they then are ready to enter the Ed Prep program in that 4-year institution at the same rate of their community college.
Oh, wow.
Tuition. So you're talking about students who, if they're also earning the Challenge scholarship, they're going to be able to get out of school virtually debt-free.
Yes.
And that's important, you know, for a starting teacher to be able to start a career that has such lifelong benefits. The other things we're doing are promoting those students being able to work as a parapro while they go to school, because a lot of their courses, especially if they're in their local community college, they can still be working part-time, full-time as a parapro, as a teaching assistant. If they're doing that, they're already earning credit towards teacher retirement. Yeah. So by the time they actually get a teaching job, they can be 4 years ahead in teacher retirement. And so these are just things that are starting. Some data that'll be helpful for you. Carly's team is working with our Comprehensive Center to update our Workforce Stability Index. And what that's going to help show is school districts where a large number of teachers are not either licensed or fully certified for the positions that they're teaching. And I think it's going to help give some early warning indicators for us so that we can know, hey, if this is a district that has more teachers on a waiver than are licensed, then we need to take a pause, and instead of just continuing to grant waivers, we're going to probably need to have a larger discussion. So those are all things that will be coming out more this fall. So I just want to kind of give you a preview to say there's a lot of work being done, but we really need your help, and we also really want to double down in the area of special education. The teaching academies that we've been able to fund with our ESSER funds, we're getting tremendous progress from that. You're getting really good content teachers, reading, math, science content people who are earning a certification for special ed. Those students are going to be part of an inclusive classroom, not being pulled out of a regular classroom situation. That's going to benefit kids. Huge. It also benefits the teacher too. So anyway, we've got a great team here. They're doing great work, but we're going to need to have your continuous support and your questions help us. So thank you.
Thank you for that work and information. It's great. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Do we need to approve your report, or we just accept the report? Okay. All right. We need a motion for that or not? It's on the action agenda, so, okay,
Action agenda, so let's go ahead and,
okay, all right. I need a motion to accept the report.
I move to accept the report.
Motion by Ms. Dean. Seconded by Ms. Woods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're going to take a, yesterday I gave you a 5-minute break, and I thought that wasn't long enough. Will 10 minutes work? All right, so let's do a 10 minutes break, and then I'll let Ms. Hill get her things gathered up too. So, all right. Be back at about 10:50-ish. I think we're ready to move on to the report section. The first thing is the board reports. Does anyone have something that you would like to report? Dr. Moore? Okay, all right. So the next thing is our Teacher of the Year, Ms. Post. We're excited.
I'm so excited. First, let me just say that Arkansas is amazing. I'm in this Facebook group with all the other Teachers of the Year, and the fact that I'm getting to sit here, even in a non-voting capacity, is incredible, and they are so envious of what we have here. One lady told me she literally got a little plaque and she hasn't heard from anyone since. And that's the extent of their Teacher of the Year program. So thank you. This is quite the honor. And I think it just says a lot about our state and what we're doing in education. I wanted to tell you what I've been doing. I don't know if you heard about Rise and Shine, but
Yes.
myself and the past 5 ATOYs, we were in the PBS studio and recorded, I want to say it was over 90 hours
Wow.
of content.
Wow.
Yes, and that was a new experience for me. I had it pictured kind of like we are right now, and the cameras were way back there. No. Everything, like there was a microphone hanging over my head. There's cameras everywhere. If you haven't watched, you're going to have to watch, but please don't watch when we dance, because they made all of us dance for 30 seconds. And dancing for 30 seconds with a bunch of cameras and about 15 people watching you is not what I signed up for, but I did it for the kids. So PBS Rise and Shine, I'm incredibly excited about. I think that is hopefully going to do what it was intended to, which was to address the summer slide in learning. I was also able to be at NGA Aware, and that's really exciting to see how Arkansas is trying to address mental health and the social emotional side of things. And I don't want to say that we're in a crisis right now, but I think as we progress and see some of the effects of the pandemic and our students, I just think we've got some work to do, and I'm thrilled that we're being proactive with things like Aware in addressing that. Just last night, I recorded my first keynote for the Arkansas Association of Alternative Educators. I asked them if there was a theme for the conference or if they just wanted me to speak about my platform, and they said, please speak about your platform. So it's always exciting when I get to talk about the empathy gap, because I think it's so critical. And when I was at the Aware conference, so much of that lined up with my heart and my passion for education right now. So that was really exciting. Also, just yesterday, I finished my work in scoring the applicants for the next Teacher of the Year. It's so strange. You start on July 1st, and you're choosing the next person that week. But it's neat to see a group of educators across the state and to read about the work that they have done during the pandemic in their own classrooms. And what they see as critical to present as their platforms for education. It was inspiring. Next week, I will be attending a Solution Tree conference, which I'm excited about. Even in this board meeting today and yesterday, I heard quite a bit about the PLC process. And I love what Arkansas is doing across the entire state with implementing that. I know in Fort Smith we've had a lot of success with it. I think that it is definitely the wave of the future with education, that we start collaborating more and working less in isolation. So it was exciting to see that other people were coming into the board meeting and that their schools are doing the same thing. It will be, so I've gone to Solution Tree as a novice. I've gone to some of their conferences where we had already implemented some of their work in my own school, and it kind of gives you a different lens, you know, because you have some experience with it. It will be interesting next week, now that I'm in this position, just to go through some of it again and have more of a state lens to look at it through instead of thinking about my building or my district. So I'm looking forward to that. Not quite so academic, but Space Camp is coming up. At the end of this month. And again, Arkansas is so amazing with the opportunities that the Teacher of the Year gets. And I know some of the other teachers do get to attend Space Camp, but some of them do not. Do y'all want to know what my costume is to represent Arkansas? Okay, so it's not finished yet, but I believe I'm making a tutu out of Walmart sacks. I mean, since the Walton Foundation wrote my check, I feel like I have to represent. I think there will be like a diamond blinged out t-shirt, cowboy boots, and a camo hat. But if you have any other ideas, I'm certainly open to them. That's the best that I've come up with. Someone mentioned Johnny Cash. I don't think I can pack a guitar in a suitcase to take with me. So anyway, and a couple of keynotes that I have coming up. Lisa Academy invited me to speak at their Fire Up event in Little Rock. That's on August 2nd. And Courtney Cochran, former Arkansas Teacher of the Year, has me speaking at Cedarville High School when they kick off in the fall. So again, I can't say enough just about this program and the opportunity. I still am a little shocked that I'm the one sitting here, but thank you, because again, I think that the gap in empathy that I see in classrooms, and I think y'all have heard me say this before, but I just don't believe that any teacher goes into teaching expecting to see gaps in the performance of his or her students. And yet they're there. And I think it's safe to say in every classroom, my own included, as hard, even when you're aware of your own implicit bias, and you're trying really hard to address those issues and to ensure equitable education for every student, it's still there. And I think that until we really start to understand what students need to learn based on what they're communicating with us that they need to learn rather than what we think that they need, until we can close that gap, I don't know that the opportunity gap or the resulting academic gap, achievement gap, whatever you want to call it, that those will be closed. So I'm so passionate about this, and thank you for what we're doing as a team and as a state to elevate platforms like my own.
Anybody have a question or a comment for Ms. Post?
I just would like to say I'd love to come hear your program at some point and to hear you speak on the empathy gap. I think that's something that, or any other topic that you cover. So keep us informed of your events coming up, anything that might be open for us to attend. I'd be interested in that.
Anyone else? Thank you. We can't wait to see what your impact is going to be on the students of Arkansas, because I think it's going to be great. And just a heads up, you will become a different person by June 30th of next year. You're going to learn so much, and it's going to be a great year. All right, so Mr. Secretary.
You all have seen this in the news, I'm sure, that our ARP ESSER plan is one of the first approved in the nation. We're very proud of that, proud of the work of Ms. Kaufman and her team, Dr. Amanda Britt, and countless others who worked very hard to put that together, to respond when the U.S. Department of Education sent back, said, hey, we don't see this. Can you make whatever corrections or additions? Send it back again. You know, that process we go through with the feds, but it was a very, I'm very, very proud of our plan, and I think there's a lot in that plan that we could point to, other states can look at, and now not just now, but as districts have been working on the plan, that's the thing we have to continue to work with them and remind them that it's not just about getting money and spending it. It's about developing a plan for how they are going to meet the needs of their students with these funds, based on the needs and the data that their local data sources tell them. With the approval of the plan also came the release of the 400 and something thousand in the remaining funds that came in at 465,000, I believe, something in that neighborhood. We now have all of the federal funds that have come in. This is a reimbursement program, so districts will spend according to their local plans and then submit to us for the reimbursement of those expenditures. Just a few minutes ago, the CDC released their updated guidance for schools for next school year, and we are reviewing that. Dr. Britt and the team over at Health have been working on the new guidance or updated guidance for the school year, so they'll compare the CDC guidance with our guidance, make whatever adjustments there that may be necessary. We know that school, it's going to be starting in just a few weeks, and districts are asking a lot of questions already, as you would expect them to. So we're taking very seriously the need and the urgency of getting that out there as soon as possible. We had a very successful ADE summit. Ms. Post just alluded to that, and we really appreciate everyone's involvement, but I want to highlight Carmen Jordan and Daniel Collier especially. The planning, the on-site management of that, and the work that they did, along with many others on the team. But I think for one of the first big education events post-COVID, it was tremendous. Went smoother than I could have ever imagined and expected. And that's just a testament to the quality of this team that we have here at the department and their dedication to helping our students, or our students, but our educators and administrators have that opportunity to learn and get ready for the upcoming school year. And just to give you an update, Mr. Sutton at one point said and asked me what this certain acronym was that we had been using several times today, and I said, well, this is what it is, but we have an acronym translator. Apparently we've never informed him of that, so all of the rest of you may not realize we have an acronym translator on our website. We will make sure you get that link. But that leads me into, we will be reaching out to you. A number of you have asked about training. That is something that we, pre-COVID, we really, I think had a pretty solid training system for new board members. But with COVID, we've just not, we need to get back to that, I guess is my point. So we will be getting back to that. Thank you, Dan. Acronym translator is there, as you see on the screen now. But those are the four things that I just wanted to make sure I covered with you today, and if there are any questions about those or other topics, I would be happy to answer.
I did just want to interject. I think Gina's not in here anymore. I just attended like a new member institute training that we are a part of. She sent it to me. She's like, if you're interested, I think it's 3 parts. I attended the first one this last month, and it was phenomenal. I mean, I came on right smack dab in the middle of COVID. My first in-person meeting wasn't until I think August. And there was so much in that. And so I just, to you, Mr. Sutton, and to you, Dr. Rankin, if you have the opportunity to take it, I would highly recommend it. I'm very excited about the next 2 sessions. So to your point, any onboarding that y'all can provide, even through third parties, is awesome.
Which one was that?
If you hadn't have asked me, I could have just told. I will send it to you, though. Gina is the one that sent it to me.
I'll check with Gina.
And apparently we're a part of it as an institute, and we pay for it.
Probably NASB.
NASB. Okay, that sounds familiar, but I didn't want to say that and be wrong. But yes, and it was awesome. And we were on. And to your point about Arkansas having a great program, I was on with. It's within your first 2 years of being a board member. And I was on with people from all across the country, and just things they were saying they get to do was very different than ours. And I'm like, we get a lot of privilege here to do what we do that other people just don't get. So, again, I just wanted to plug that because it was awesome and I enjoyed it.
have to run for election like some of those members have had to do. That's a big thing in some states. Yeah.
I had a question on the COVID beginning of school. I know last year districts were able to pivot if they had a teacher that needed to quarantine or a classroom that needed to quarantine. And this year, they're submitting the digital learning plans, and some districts are choosing not to. Some are choosing just specific grade bands. What will happen, because our numbers are seeming to go in a direction that we're not real happy with right now? What will happen if a district needs to do something like that and they don't have a plan in place?
So they are expected to submit their AMI plan. So AMI is still a component that can be used. Under statute, that's limited to 10 days. That is a topic of, okay, what happens after 10 days that we have been discussing and reviewing. So we're still looking at that. In the last school year, because we started under the emergency order, we were able to waive a number of things, and there was great flexibility that we don't have currently. So I don't really have a complete answer to your question, but that's part of what we're working on right now.
Can AMI be used for just a classroom, or does it have to be for a whole district?
It can be used for a classroom or a building.
Okay.
I think that's right. Well, okay, maybe not. These are all, it's a good question, and these are all questions that we're trying to grapple with right now.
So when you said that about the classroom, that's where it gets kind of tricky in terms of, how do we handle, small groups of students versus entire classrooms versus entire schools and then the district. So I think one way to think about it would be, at the very onset last year, what we talked to districts about is that they need to have a system that allows for students to be able to learn anytime, anywhere. That's really what the whole premise of digital learning is. So you've got that, flexibility that if you can't be right here, right now, just like, Dr. Moore, able to join the Zoom, still able to participate. So I think we've gotten to a point where districts should have systems in place that if an individual student or small group can't be in the classroom immediately, they should be able to continue teaching and learning. The digital programs that you all approved, or in the applications, that's for really that full-time, almost that different instructional option that the parent is choosing. So then the AMI really comes in. The whole premise of AMI was when a school or the entire district wasn't able to be there. So I think what we're going to have to think through is how do we really give guidance around a classroom situation where it's not the entire school, but it's a small group, and just make sure that you don't have pockets of students who are missing out on instructional time.
So they will still be able to pivot like they were last year in smaller groups rather than...
Right, well, because there will be quarantine requirements, and we're not going to be able to dictate, well, if you have this many, we want them to be able to continue learning. So we want districts to really think about their student attendance policies and say, here's what we can do if a classroom of students has to be home or if a teacher has to be at home. So we're going to have to fine tune that a little more, and I'm glad you asked that question.
I wasn't sure if for those districts that didn't have the digital learning plans, what would happen in those cases. So.
Even not having a digital learning plan doesn't mean that you don't have and I'm trying to think of the right word that we were using last year, but not having a whole comprehensive digital program doesn't mean that you're not able to flex and have a hybrid, a hybrid situation.
Okay.
So.
All right, that's comforting that they'll be able to handle that.
And I did have just a follow-up question on the digital learning plans. Are we, keep the perspective, did we see about 100? There were about 100 schools that did not submit a proposal. Is that about right? Once the tally was done, about 100.
Yeah. Right now we have 100 approved. You guys approved 100, and we had like 50 more that we were still in that process. So there's a significant group that didn't do the full-time virtual option for kids. But again, the blended or hybrid model.
Blended was the word I could not grasp.
Yeah. Where you have that ability, and that's still available. I mean, we even pre-COVID, you had situations in which you've had these blended models that had more fluidity in it, and the waiver of seat time and how all that changed. So but the digital option is full-time.
And recall too, we did modify the definition of state absence, how we look at an absence. So if a student isn't in person, attending because they are quarantined, but they can still join in, they don't get counted absent. So it doesn't count against them, doesn't count against the school, or any of the other ways that attendance might be looked at.
But those waivers that we approved last summer, those are no more. The waiver of seat time, and I don't remember what the others, they're all gone. So they would still have to abide by some of those standards, even if they were off-site.
Yeah, well, yes, because any of those blanket waivers that happened under the emergency order are no longer available, which is one of the reasons that some have brought 1240 waivers with the digital learning plans. But again, that was for those the programmatic shifts. That really doesn't apply to those shifts you have to do, because whether it was flu, whether it's weather, whether it's COVID, and that's where the 10-day AMI comes into play. Now, what happens beyond that, again, as I said, that's a point of conversation that we're all legal. Those two ladies in front of you and I are trying to figure out how to make sure that we cover all those bases.
Well, and my comments were just going to be, that continuous reminder to schools, with the ESSER funding that they have, and, just capitalizing on the systems that they put in place last year, they should be able to provide mechanisms for students who cannot be in class for a few days or a couple of weeks to be able to continue learning. So, those are just going to be realities that we do have to grapple with. It could be, in some cases, there are enough classrooms within a school going forward that a whole school might have to make a decision. So that's where then that whole school-wide AMI plan could really come into play and be important. And we would expect there could be differences at elementary and secondary, just like we saw this year. So we're going to keep working on it. We will make sure you all get copied on the communication that goes out to school districts, so that way you've got an early view of it, and you can help funnel questions to us.
And so the AMI plans, and for Mr. Sutton, alternative methods of instruction, that's evolved. So when it first came, it was really coming out of like Kentucky and northern part where they were having snow, and due to getting to school and roads, they would have this option that schools could have AMI days because of snow. I mean, that's where the legislation actually came to Arkansas, was because it had been shared at national conferences that they were doing this and having success with it. And so when it came to our state, and it was this no more than 10 days, the first year, plans that were submitted, basically all worksheets, packets that were pre-made, put in backpacks, and then just the fact that we had people at least thinking about this, that when COVID hit, and the option for us to say, how do you keep instruction going in the digital part, it's really boosted into this, how do you keep teaching and learning going on a day that we can't all be in person? So it's just an avenue. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Ms. Freno, do we have any public comment? Okay. Does anyone else have anything you need to comment or questions? Dr. Moore? All right, so I think we're ready to adjourn. Motion to adjourn? Ms. Dean? Anybody else want to go home? All right. All right. We'll see you Tuesday at, no, it's not Tuesday, it's Wednesday, isn't it? Wednesday at 9? Okay, Wednesday at 9 for our special meeting.